Filipinos are very resourceful when it comes to getting food. We've talked a lot about how much Filipinos eat, how many times a day Filipinos eat, and with all that eating, you actually have to be very creative in having lots of food sources so that there's always plenty of food to go around. And that means Filipinos don't shy away from eating all the parts of the animal. They don't shy away from eating like anything you can find in a field. It's like, oh, we'll eat the rice. We'll eat the kangkong that grows beside the rice field. We'll eat the bugs that sit on the rice stalks. We'll eat the frogs that hop through the rice field. Like literally anything in that rice field is fair game in the Philippines. You're gonna eat all of it. Hi mga kabano, it's Chris here. Now, you also see for that Philippine food culture, there's no distinction like, okay, we're gonna eat organs today, we're gonna eat insects today, we're gonna eat innards today. Frankly, I mean, if you walk around at like merienda time in the afternoon, there's just entire stalls and it's literally every part of the chicken that Americans wouldn't eat is on a stick and not being grilled in the Philippines. That's a really interesting part of the food culture. And today I wanna take you through some of the more exotic things that, I already used the word exotic Filipino dishes out there, which use some of these less common ingredients and tell you a little bit more about them. Now, of course, guys, like I love to give a rating to all of the different things I try because a lot of you are interested in how me as a foreigner perceive some of these dishes. So in today's vlog, for each of these dishes, I'm going to give, I don't want to say a kadiri factor because I don't think any of these are inherently disgusting. I think it's actually about how weird it is to you as an individual and how you grew up and what you ate growing up. That's really what it is. So I will say like gano ka weird scale as opposed to like kadiri or yuck, which I think is like a little bit too strong and probably disrespectful to people who love these dishes, right? So let's go through my top 5 super exotic Filipino dishes using weird and wonderful ingredients here in the Philippines. The first dish we're going to talk about today is TUSLOB BUWA. Let's get it out of the way. This is pig's brain, and TUSLOB BUWA means to dip in bubbles. It's found in Cebu, Visayas region. So it's typically the pig's brain, and then you're gonna cook that with pig's liver, appetizing, I know. Some onion and garlic, because everything in Filipino cooking has onion and garlic. And some water and some cornstarch to kind of thicken that soupy stock up. And you're just gonna let it simmer away until it starts to thicken and bubble. And then you would then typically serve this with puso, which is this parang rice wrapped in woven coconut leaves and like cooked in the coconut leaves to impart some of that flavor. So it's like a flavored rice, and then you have it with your pig brain and liver soupy stew. And that is TUSLOB BUWA. Delicious. I haven't tried it. If anybody interested, does anyone cook this at home, tried it, can speak for whether they love this dish or not. My view is I'm gonna try everything once. Brain is still on my bucket list. For some reason, I don't like the idea of eating brain. That one I really struggle with mentally. I've eaten liver and lung and tried anything on the merienda stand at pang merienda time dito sa Pilipinas. So coagulated blood, isaw, Adidas and helmet and stuff. I have eaten them all, but I don't love them. But brain, I think I struggle with. So anyway, if you've tried this, let me know what you think and give me like a reason why I should go to Cebu and try TUSLOB BUWA, because I'm like looking for a reason to try this one because I can't see it when I read out that description. For me, this TUSLOB BUWA, this is probably about the highest rating I'm going to give today. I think this one is probably a 10, definitely. So the next one on my list today is, of course, DAGANG BUKID. Daga, that's a rat. And then we have that little NG for all the non-Tagalog speakers there. So daga is your rat. The little NG links it to the thing that comes after it. Bukid is parang field na rice field, diba? Paddy. So dagang bukid is a field rat. I think we would call that in English. And it's not like, I mean, if you told me that Filipinos are eating the Manila rat, the like radioactive rats that live in the sewers of Pasig City or something and come out when it floods, those look pretty vile, like the little sewer runners here in Manila. But I guess a field rat would be remarkably clean, right? So it's like, it's in the field, it's probably eating rice grains and straight off the plant and probably different, maybe it eats little bugs or something like that. I mean, it seems like it would be pretty clean to me. So anyway, this is quite common to be eaten in Pampanga, in the mga rice fields dyan. And they'll typically catch it and either fry it up and serve as a pulutan, or you make it into dagang bukid adobo, so just adobo style. And the taste is said to be very similar to chicken. I know everyone says everything tastes like chicken, but I believe that's probably true when you're eating something like a rat, like small rodent kind of flavor. This isn't that weird for me. I mean, I think the whole conception of rats being disgusting is that they're seen as disease carrying. And I think that is the case. Like a Metro Manila rat, I just wouldn't touch ever. Like I wouldn't want to touch it, let alone eat it. Because you're just thinking this guy has literally been through an entire city's garbage and sewerage. But a field rat, I'm like, how is that particularly different from eating like a squirrel? Or, I mean, I don't eat squirrels, but like parang ibang klase ng rodent. It's not really that different. It's not that far away from eating, say, rabbit, which humans have done for millennia. So I don't find this one particularly weird as a result. This would probably just be like a 3 on the weirdness scale. I think like if I was assured that that rat was clean, I would be totally fine to take a bite out of my rat pulutan. So next, now this is the one that I managed to slip into my cookbook. I got this past the publishers. This is papaitan. It's great because it has this like a really benign sounding name. You're like, oh, papaitan. That kind of sounds interesting. Sounds pretty, ordinary kind of soupy dish. And then you find out what makes papaitan pait, because pait means bitter, right? So papaitan is a derivative dish name for a bitter soup. It's not ampalaya, guys. It's bile. And if you were to translate this for like a non-Filipino audience, you'd be like, hi, would you like some bile soup? And can you imagine saying that to your typical American? Would you like some bile soup? You know bile that's in your liver? We made that into a soup. Would you like to try some? I can just imagine doing like that social experiment, streets of New York. Try some bile soup, everybody, and I think you would get 0 people take you up on that. So anyway, but this is actually quite a famous dish from Ilocos. It uses goat or beef innards, and it's not just the bile that's used. It's the whole works. It's like every part of the animal that typically is not eaten will go in this soup. So innards katulad ng tripe, liver, kidney, intestine, pancreas, or heart of the animal. So the whole shebang goes in the soup along with the bile from the liver for the flavoring. I mean, this just really sounds unappetizing for any culture that's not comfortable and regularly eating yung mga animal innards and guts, right? So what you do is you stew all of these innards with the bile, and that imparts a real bitterness to the dish. And then you would normally cook it with onions, chili, salt, pepper, and fish sauce. So you pretty much, what you're gonna end up with is this kind of salt, bitter, which is a really unusual combination. It's why I want to talk about this one as exotic, because this is one of the very few examples anywhere in the world of a bitter salty. You see bitter sweet a bit more often, but bitter salty combination is quite rare. This will normally be served as a standalone meal with rice, or can be enjoyed with beer, which probably just imparts a bit more, I guess, comparative sweetness. I mean, the beer must taste amazing after this. I'm just imagining if you have that bitterness on your palate, how good a beer would taste, washing it down with. So that's something that they'll normally pair with it. I would not recommend pairing this to wine. Definitely a beer if you're gonna have papaitan. And this is gonna be in my cookbook, so we have at least one, like, pretty out there dish in that book when it comes out next year. And this one for me, I mean, I just feel it's that soup where they were like, we don't want to throw away all this edible animal meat, so let's just bite the bullet and put the whole lot in the soup and eat it. And I think that's where papaitans really come from. And for that reason, it doesn't feel that weird to me, although I don't go out of my way to cook this. And I feel like getting good quality innards is quite hard. If you go to the supermarket, it's not like they have just a fresh innards section. I think you've really got to be in a province where animals are being freshly slaughtered, and then this is probably a lot more tasty. But I don't think I'd want to go out and buy that couple of day-old innards from the supermarket. I'll give this one like a 6 out of 10 on my weirdness factor today. So another one that hails from Ilocos is abuos. This looks like legumes. It's sort of this whitish legume-looking object, but they're not legumes. They're actually large ant eggs. And you normally cook them up adobo style, because Filipinos will adobo everything. It's like there's just no limit to what you can or cannot adobo. And this one I've actually never seen for sale in Manila. I think you've got to go to some pretty specialized markets to find it. So I think it would be quite easy to find in the Ilocos region, where obviously it comes from. So you can do it adobo style, you can saute it with garlic, or you can just eat them raw, which is probably how the practice started. Like, there's some calories, you need to eat it. This is, for me, not that weird. And I think there's a growing acceptance of like eating insect or insect byproducts. It's very lean proteins, I think very healthy compared certainly to eating a lot of typical livestock type meats like the cows and pigs that have really become predominant in Western culinary tradition. So probably from a sustainability perspective, from a health perspective, this is a good idea. But I think people are naturally a little bit uncomfortable if you haven't grown up eating insect parts or insect eggs to get into that. So I find this one, I think what is in this one's favor is if you compare like eating a cricket, like kamaru, versus eating an abuos. The cricket is very visual. It's like, okay, you can feel when you eat it, the little like spiny legs and furry bits and stuff like that going on. Whereas I imagine this is just like a little bowl. And if you've ever eaten caviar, you get the salmon roe sashimi, for example, na yung mga salmon fish egg, anong iba dyan, di ba? Na insect compared to isda? I mean, itlog pa rin yun, di ba? At saka, di ba, yung mga chicken egg din yun, di ba? So I don't see how it fundamentally differs from that. So this is probably just like a 3 on my weirdness factor. And visually, I think it's very like, doesn't look creepy or anything. I want to try this one, I think, if I go back to Ilocos. If anyone has any recommendations of where to eat abuos, please let me know. And if anyone can tell me specifically where to eat abuos, I would love to hear from you. So leave a comment below if you know. And my last exotic food today that's often eaten in the Philippines is uok. Now, uwak is basically beetle larvae. So it looks like this fat, white little worm, and they live in dead coconut logs. It's a great place to live. I would prefer living in like a live coconut log kubo or house, but they live in dead coconut logs. And basically, indigenous Filipinos in the past would collect these and they'd eat them raw, or guess what? They would cook them adobo style. So another thing that you can make into adobo. So the style of eating this is you would actually just like remove the head first and then suck the innards of this beetle larva. I have not tried this one, so anyone want to leave a comment on how this tastes and how you enjoy it, please do. And this one I've seen it is available in like parts of Rizal. There's some restaurants who still serve it today, not too far from Metro Manila, and typically you'll have it with rice and tomatoes to just give perhaps a bit more acidity. I don't know exactly how the flavors are gonna match, but that sounds reasonable. I mean, let me tell you what's happening now, like at least where I'm from in Australia, but I've heard this is also happening in the United States now. Bugs are becoming a thing. There's this greater interest in like sustainable food production, and people are really saying like insects are like very efficient creators of animal protein compared to 10 kilos of grain must be fed to a cow to produce 1 kilo of beef, whereas insects can produce far more protein for far less inputs in terms of grain or vegetable inputs to produce like a kilo of meat, or effectively meat protein. So they're sort of seen as easy to farm, highly sustainable, very quick to produce, very efficient producers of proteins for human consumption. And that's something which, as the planet, like human population expands, I think is becoming of more interest. So even in Australia, I was just reading recently, there's now like a bug tapas bar in Sydney. So all the hipsters are going there going like, yeah, I'll have a bug, mate. I think it's called Bug Off or something like that. Great, hilarious name. And you go in and you're like, yeah, I'll have that worm, I'll have that cockroach, and I'll have that moth, thanks. And they'll cook that up for you in a certain way. And then you sit there like with your oversized hipster glasses and eat your bug. I think this is probably a little bit more confronting visually than the abua, so maybe this will be like a 4 out of 10 for me on the weirdness scale, but everyone should try uwak. So if you liked hearing about some of these exotic Filipino foods, don't forget to share the video and subscribe, of course. More subscribers equals more maputing cooking, and I really love hearing from you all around the world. I've got to do a world tour sometime where we go and like meet a bunch of my kabanos in all of the different countries where there are Filipinos, because I've been so overwhelmed with the global support for the show and what we're doing in talking and showcasing the best parts of Filipino food. So if you want to help me take Filipino food global, leave your comments below, tell your friends about the show, and you can go to Facebook as well, like us there. We have a lot of contests going on regularly where you can win prizes if you're here in the Philippines. So do check those out, and I'll see you guys all for the next video. I'm Chris Urbano. Bye now.